Okay, for today, we've put your learning targets up here. I tried to make it as simple as possible. The first one is um, hopefully by the end, you guys will know as teachers what you need to know for the online testing. And then you will also need to know what students need to know for the online testing. That's pretty much it. That's what our whole topic is about today is online testing and the resources for it. I hope to give you guys some time to explore, either if you brought a device or in the computers in the back, explore some of these resources and go over them and figure out what you want to utilize in your classroom. So as we go throughout, if you guys have a suggestion, like if you have a site that you use already with your kids, or just anything, just yell it out. I'm really informal. Okay, so I made a really bad presentation today that I'm not even going to share with you guys. I made it mainly for myself to put the links in there, but I'll show you how to get to these places. Okay. So we're just going to kind of dive right in, if that's all right with you guys. We put a link on the homepage of the website under quick links, and it says Ohio State testing info. When you click on that, it takes you to the state site for online testing. This might be something that you want to point your parents to because it does have a students and family section. If they click on that, there are some practice tests. So they can do this at home. They can do it anywhere. But what I want to show you guys is this one for as teachers and test administrators, because a lot of you will be responsible for administering the test. So I clicked on that link for the teachers/test administrators, and then I'm going to go to this one that says resources here. And I just kind of want to go over what this is and pick out some key things for you guys to look at. At this homepage is actually kind of nice because what it does is it tells you these folders right here, or these links over here on the side, and then it tells you the different subfolders and what is in each one. So you don't have to hunt and figure out what's in them. It kind of tells you here a little bit so you know where to go. So the first one that I'm going to start off with is just the student practice resources. And I want to point out a few things. I'm going to kind of talk about your role in the testing site, and then I'm going to kind of go back and share some resources for you to share with your students. So I'm going to kind of split this into two. So you guys want to go here for a few different reasons. I'm just going to click on English Language Arts. One of the nice things about the English Language Arts is that it has the writing rubrics. These are the exact rubrics that they use for the test. It's a 4-point rubric, and it goes into detail about how to get each point. If I were you guys, I might want to use this rubric in the classroom with your students, just so they kind of get an idea of what they're going to be tested on, and you guys can get an idea of how they're going to be scored. Now, obviously, you're going to score it a little bit different, but at least you'll be familiar with the rubric. And if you can point back to this as you're doing your writers' conferences or whatever with your kids, you can look at them and point towards these different evidence and things like that in the rubric. So these rubrics are really, really nice. They have one for each kind of writing, I guess, and then for the different grade bands. They also have some sample questions. So I'm going to click on third grade here. And down here they have some sample writings and how they use the rubric. So this writing here got a perfect score, got a 10-point score. So this is what they expect for third graders. Yes. This right here is this is an 8-point. This is an 8-pointer from a third grader. Here's a 5-pointer, and here's a 3-pointer. This would be the lowest score possible. So these are useful for you guys to look at. Yeah, I see some wide eyes. I kind of did the same thing whenever I saw the 10-pointer. That's a perfect score right there. So that's what we're aiming for. So this is useful for you to go and look at. There's also one for high school as well. I don't know how many high school teachers we have, if any, in here. Yeah. But they have them in here as well. So that's for ELA. For math, they have some sample item questions. I'm not going to go over everything just because I don't have time. But they have some sample questions here. And I'm going to kind of go over some of the questions. And we're going to talk about them a little bit. The calculator policy is here. Today, the high school students took the Algebra 1 test. I'm going to get choked here. Yeah. You're going to have to give me a minute. They use the handheld calculator. Yes. They do not have to use the calculator that's on their screen. Please do. Correct. These were students that took it as freshmen who received a 1 or a 2, I believe. This was their chance to receive a higher score. They don't have. Correct. So the calculator policy, students can use a handheld calculator. Absolutely. That's great. Good. So, Ton, at the high school, they use the Inspires. That's what they use today. Yeah. For what? We'll talk about that. We're going to take a look. So, there's the calculator policy. Might want to read over it. They do have samples of the calculators on here. This is what the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students will be using. And then they have a high school math calculator. There is this really nice equation tutorial that the students that took it today went through. It is excellent. I would like to see every high school student, if not middle school student, go through this. So what it does is it basically gives them a sample equation that they have to type in, and then they have to go over here and type the exact same equation that they see. It tells them step by step how to do it. But, once we get into exponents and you have the superscript, it gets a little complicated. Once you start adding expressions and fractions in there, it gets pretty complicated. Okay. Yes. At your TBT on Friday, I suggest you share this. All of the students that took the test went through this equation editor prior to taking the test. So, correct. So that's very, very valuable. Reference sheets. The students at these grade levels will be given a reference sheet. We'll have the ability to see one, and it's just some different equations, or what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah. For them to refer to. What's that? The reference sheet? No. As many times as they want. Okay, now this one, the students can go through it as many times as they want. And then you can jump from section to section as well. So the basic use, that's pretty simple. But whenever you start getting to trig functions and doing exponents and things like that, it can get pretty tricky. So that's one thing, especially at the middle school level, mainly the high school level, they need to go through. That way they'll be ready for it. Science and social studies, again, they have the scientific calculator. They'll be able to use one in science as well. They will be able to use a periodic table at the high school level, and they also have a reference sheet as well. Now, I have to say, and Angela mentioned this too, that the science and social studies sections have not really been updated. You can see that it still has a PBA and an end of year scoring guide. Well, they're not doing that now. There's just one test. So hopefully they'll start to update those very, very soon here. Social studies, they don't have a whole lot for, but they have some practice tests and some test documents to go over. So again, I'm not going to touch on everything, but I'm trying to point you guys to directions on where you can go. Yes, ma'am. Okay. What do you mean? Like
The box doesn't expand until you
get to it. I see what you're talking about. I'm sure there is. Well, I'm gonna. Mm-hmm. There's also a way with that, in that text box in the bottom right, it has a little arrow where you can drag it and make it as big or as small as you want. So I don't know if there's any site. I don't know. Well, look, I'm going to show you. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to show you some other. Are you wanting something that so the students don't have to scroll, or keeps going? I see. Yeah. They think that they just have to go to the bottom of that box. Okay. And maybe not. That might just be something that we have to hammer home to them. That says there will be a box here, but just because you get to the bottom of that box doesn't mean you stop. It means you keep going. It'll go with you. You know? Yeah. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is the administration manuals and guidance documents. You guys will want this second link, Direction for Administration Manual. This is the exact manual that you will get in the spring. This is actually the falls here, but this gives you your script that you're supposed to read. It tells you exactly what to do. So it might be a good idea. I know that I did, and I know a lot of teachers still do, like to look over this script before they actually do it. So this is where your script is. It tells you what to say and everything. So you might want to go over that. The other one is, actually there's a couple more here. There's this online testing checklist, and this is exactly what it looks like here. Now, are you going, Robin, are you going to be able to go to the high school tomorrow to see how they do it? Okay. Right. Right. Will they be over? They can get logged. If you just want to see the login part, they start. Yeah, it probably does. 8 o'clock, 8:15ish. If you can get there at 8. If you stay for a half hour, you should be able to. What's that? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. But this section right here explains it to a T, and it was just updated November 9th. So it's brand new. I would highly suggest going over this one as well, because the way that it works, it tells you what buttons you need to click on, and then you have to go through and select the test that your students are taking. So in this example, they're taking the social studies, American history, part 1 and part 2. And then after you do that, you will be given a session code that the students will have to know. So you'll either have to write it on the board, put it up on your screen, somehow give them this section code. And then the students, they have to log on with their first name, their state ID number, and then this session code. Yes. It is. It's one code. It's the same code for all the kids. Now, at the high school, we were able to print off cards for each kid. So each kid got a card with their name on it, had their first name, had their student ID number, and then they had it in front of them, and then the teachers just put up the state code. But this goes through to a T, tells you what you're supposed to say. The time on the test starts when you okay them, which I'm going to show you. So they have to type in their first name, their student ID number, and then that session code that you were giving them up here after you did your part. Those are the only 3 things they have to type in. And then once they log in, if they do it correctly, it'll give their name, date of birth, school, and everything. And they say, "Is this you?" And they would say yes. And then they have to select what test they take. Obviously, they're going to do part 1 first. And then their screen's going to say waiting for TA approval, because you have to approve them first. So if a student clicks part 2, you can not approve them, so they don't take part 2. Then they'd have to log in again and select part 1. So then on your screen, it'll show you how many approvals you have waiting. 1, or this morning we had 14 kids, so there was a 14 up here. It'll show you the name of the students, and then you have to approve them. There is an approve all button up here, so if there's 25 kids in there, you just hit approve all, and then as soon as you approve them, that's when their time starts. Yes. I would, and there's not only this, but I'll show you another section where you can go that has videos and audio that you can watch and go through. The test coordinator, or the building test coordinator, can plug those settings in beforehand. Correct. So I would go through this if I were you, because this is what you're going to have to do. Then there's one more on here, testing times. If you don't remember, it shows you how long each test is. So just in case you forget. Okay. So the 3 on this one, under administration manuals and guidance, is the directions for test administration manual, the online testing checklist. I think that one, those 2 are highly important, especially that one. And then if you want the times, it's on here as well. Under general, this is the blueprints. Do you want to take over here? Thanks. Don't. Okay. ELA?
If you haven't seen these, this is actually a little bit nicer, user-friendly than a lot of what I was just going to recommend is that everybody got these, and hopefully some of you were using these, so that these are really helpful. What I would say, or maybe suggest, is either to print one and just put it right in that booklet, or decide to go through and, like, I didn't write this, this is not my copy, but, maybe write on there, not tested, or not on blueprint, or, something, so that as you're looking at it, you don't have to keep remembering, is this one tested or not? In the math, if you click on the math book or math, especially in math, they have ones that are actually highlighted. That's actually kind of a green and yellowish on there. But those are ones that are considered critical areas that you use to build your curriculum and your instructions, what they're saying. So you might want to go and through there and mark those as critical areas. And I also wanted to just point out, like you said before about the writing rubric, going through here on the narratives are not tested. Those are not a blueprint. So narrative writing is not one that's going to be asked to be tested. It is either opinion writing or explanatory writing. So that would be definitely one that you might go mark. That one not a blueprint. So I just wanted to point out that that merging that with what you already, the resources you already have, kind of getting everything in one place, I think that would be helpful for people. And it could seriously be as simple as just printing off and putting it in that. I think so much of the time we spend time jumping back and forth between resources, and it's not putting it all in one place.
And then there is one more resource that I wanted to show you. And I'm trying to remember where that one is. I think if I go back to the home page, if I go here, yeah, I know where it is. Right here under key documents is the first one. It's called Test Administrator Certification Course. This would be very helpful to go through, just because it gives you a video. It goes through visual examples, audio, explains it, and then it'll go through not only how to access the online system, but it'll go through in detail of how to, okay, when I do the test, where do I go? How do I get that code? How do I get my kids on it? Things like that. So there's 46 modules, but the longest one is a minute. So there's one that's 10 seconds long. So they're not, it's not going to take you, days and days. It says it'll take 30 minutes to go through, which is pretty good. So all of this stuff that I've shown you has actually, I know, been sent out by Angela, but it's always better and helpful just to kind of see it. No, the total thing is 30 minutes for those 46 modules. Okay. Any other questions about this site? This is also where students can go to practice the online. Oh, actually, they would go back to the student site, and they would go here and take practice tests. Now, the practice tests aren't real long. There's like 4 or 5 questions, but it'll still give them kind of an example of how the test is going to work. No, that's what I'm going to show you right now. Okay. Mm-hmm. No, not bad. They did have one this fall, but long story short, we don't have to worry about it. So. Now we did have something happen this morning where the student they thought started the test, and then he went to listen to it because it was a math test, so they were allowed to listen to the questions being read to them, and his headphones didn't work. Well, what had happened was on the computers and the Chromebooks, there's something called a secure browser that these students have to use, and they have to use that because it disables everything else. They can't print from it. They can't go out on the internet and do anything. The only thing they could do is take that test and use the functions within the test. Well, before he got into that secure browser, his sound was muted. So when he went into the secure browser to take the test, the sound was muted and it won't let you do anything. Luckily, he hadn't started the test yet, so he was able to close out of it, unmute it, and then get back into it. But if he were in the middle of the test, he would have been able to close out of it, and it would have paused his test. He would have been able to unmute it, and then whenever he logged back in, he would resume where he left off. So, but that was one of the things. And a lot of these glitches that we're talking about, we won't even know what kind of glitches we're going to run into until we actually do it. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some resources that I know of that I think would be good practice things for the kids. And Lori, feel free to chime in at any point in time. Okay, I think this one's a good one. And I want to start off with going over to this general section here. I'm going to share these links with you, okay? It's a Spark website. If you can see it, you can write it down. But underneath these general skills, they have different test-specific skills and multimedia stuff, highlighting. There's a nice one here for mouse skills, which I think if we start, marry it with your kids, this would be great. Like they have ways to move the mouse. Well, here all you got to do is move the mouse to touch the squirrel. So it just practices moving the mouse. Really simple. Okay? They have left click, they have right click, they have one on double clicking, which you wouldn't think would be hard, but for kindergartners, sometimes it can be pretty tough. The one I really like, though, is this text selection. So if you click on that, it asks you to select the word in the sentence above the first word. So you have to go up here and highlight it. Oh, it's hard with this trackpad here. I'm not used to it. It's on my computer. And then you check it. It says you got it, and then it gives you another one. Number 2, if you do the wrong word, it won't let you go. I think highlighting text is going to be big, especially for those little kids. So I think this is a good one. So go over those general things, those mouse skills. Here's some more. These highlighting skills, these two they're not what you think they are. Okay. Correct. Also, with our Chromebooks and Chromeboxes, you'll see some of these that say require Java. If it says require Java, you won't be able to use them. Although this one says require Java, and this is actually one of the best ones. And you can use it on the Chromebooks and Chromeboxes. It works just fine. If it says requires Flash, that's no problem. We can use those, okay? So I like it because it has stuff broken down by subject level. So I'm just going to go to like 3, 5 math. I think that this flower gardens one is really good. So Mark has a flower garden here. And we have to fill in the fraction here to represent what part of this flower garden is covered with flowers. And the answer is 6/8. But then we have to tell which letter here represents that. And because I've done it before, I know the answer is D. You submit your answer, and it'll tell you at the bottom here that you got it correct. Go on to the next one. I'm going to go through the next two, okay? It says, Julia is planting flowers. She wants to cover 3/4 of the garden with flowers. Down here is her garden. Which one of these tiles can I drag down so that 3/4 of her garden is covered? Well, here's a nice one, practice for drag and drop. They drag it, and they drop it, submit their answer, and I got it right. 2 for 2. This one's very interesting, I think. So this one, we have a blank garden here, and what we have to do is make it using these tiles so that half of her garden is covered. It's 3 to 5. So that one's easy. That one's easy. This is where it requires some thinking. If I put in a wrong one, it'll tell me it's incorrect. It'll tell me that it's correct. Okay? So that one's pretty tough. Yes, sir. Mhm. Some of them were made so that they don't push down. Yes. You have to use 2 fingers, and then you just let go. No, if you hold on to it down with one finger, and then maybe with another finger move. Mhm. No. Yep. Yes. hmm Three and third, fourth graders, you guys won't have to worry about that because you're using a mouse. But that's good. That's good practice for them. Okay. So there's a lot of good math stuff on here. Again, I can't go through it all. There was a good one through, where is it? Isabella's credit card. It's through the same site, but this one's good because it has them write an equation. They would have to drop down here and write an equation. I'm sure I'm doing this totally wrong, but they would have to drag those tiles down to create their equation. There's a lot of good stuff on here. Go back to the 3.5. There's a real nice protractor one. Which one is it? This one. And again, you might have to just look through these. So this one, it wants me to do the angle. Wants me to measure the angle. So I click here and rotate my protractor. And then I have to type in that it is 34. So I'm going to check my answer, and I got it right. Yay! So I'm good at this one. Okay? But there's a lot of good math stuff on here. Who knows? So the more exposure you can give to different ones, the better. Now, on all of these, whether it's math or, well, I shouldn't say all of these, math and language arts, I would highly suggest that you do these smarter balance tests because they're really good. Now, this was made through, I think, Park, but just because we're not doing Park anymore, it's still the same standards, and the test is still going to look the same. So I would use the Smarter Balance site. Log in. I'm going to select, I'm going to do 6th grade. And that, of course, Smart Park was only math and language arts, so there's only math and language arts here. So I'm going to do a 6th grade math test. There are some of these options on the real test, so it's good for the kids to go through them. This does look a lot like the real test, I will say. I'm going to do begin test now. And this one is a good one because the kids, you have to make the height of, it says the height of the prism is 10 units. You have to use this tool to draw a base that shows Micah's claim is correct. So what you have to do is you have to add a point here, add a point here, and then you have to connect these two. And then you have to add a point here and here. Again, I'm just making this up. And then you have to connect them. If you go past it, then you have to delete that line. So click delete, find the point, and delete it. Go back to connect line, down here, here, and here. Okay. Now, last year at the high school, one of the teachers brought their kids in and did this. And the kids were able to figure it out. The teacher really didn't know what to do. But the kids were like, oh no, they were talking to each other. Oh no, you have to do this and this and that. Oh, okay. and they were able to figure it out pretty quickly. And I have a feeling that these kids will be able to figure out what to do pretty quickly, but the more you can expose it to them, the better. That way you don't have to worry about the technology skills. You could just worry about their math skills. So on here, right here, is an equation. You have to use the equation tool to write an expression. So here's a good example of using the equation editor that we talked about a little bit to create an equation. Yeah, I know. It wants me to put an answer before it'll let me go on. Okay, here we have to fill in the blanks. I typed in the letters. See, that's good to know though too. If they type in a letter, it won't let them. This one's multiple choice. You have to drag each. Oh, right here. You have to drag each coordinate to the right spot. Okay. So this is good stuff. There's another one on here too with the equation editor where you have to write a fraction. Well, it's not easy, but to get the kids to kind of figure out where to put the letters or the numbers for the fraction, letters if you have an expression. So the more you can, and even if you're at the high school, if you want to do these 6th grade ones and 7th grade ones, one, it'll be good review, but two, it'll be good technology practice, So I really, really like that Smarter Balance website. So that was all math. Now, the Smarter Balance site does have, like I said, English language arts, and it doesn't look like I'm going to give you much time to peruse. Sorry. Oh, I got to select a grade. We'll go 4th grade. And I want to do the ELA test. Yes, start my test. This is where they can use sound. Yeah, I heard it. All right, begin test. So here you go. This is almost exactly what it looks like. The high school kids took the English 9 test on yesterday, whatever yesterday was, I don't even know. Wednesday. And this is what it looks like. Here's their selection over here, or passage. I remember when I taught 4th grade, I used the word selection all year, and then on the test it said passage. I was like, oh. And they're like, what's a passage? Can't help you. I don't know. What's this button do? There you go. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, this is 4th grade, but who cares? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But for the practice set, I think the practice site is more technology practice and getting them used to what it'll look like. There's no way for this to spit you out. Nah, I don't think so. Yeah, you can always take screenshots. I know you can mark a question for review. Notepad is something they're going to have on the test. They can write notes to themselves, but they also get a blank sheet of paper. So, but the kids, they might want to use the technology and they want to use the notepad instead of a scrap piece of paper. Okay, so I left a bunch of questions blank. I didn't like that. So, but this is a good practice test. Well, yeah, that's what we yeah, right here. That's what we just did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. But I know that you have to pick. I know you have to pick up their scrap paper. Yes. But the math questions are usually in a sequence so that it kind of makes them almost show their work as they answer each question. Hmm. Hmm. So I think this Smarter Balance website shows some really, really good stuff. The other thing, let me go back up to language arts, especially 3 to 5. Where is it? Oh, right here. Reading quizzes from Mr. Newsbaum's World. They have reading comprehension, main ideas, sequencing, vocabulary, and details. I'm going to just click on one that says reading comprehension. And it has, for grades 1 and 2, so starting in 1st and 2nd grade, it has 18 of them that they can do. So they could click on this one on woodpeckers here. And it's kind of like a test. It does it split screen here. They have to read the selection or the passage, whatever they want to call it. And then they have to answer the questions. Hey, I got that one right. I'm good. See if I get this one. Okay, but it looks like this one has 5 questions for this passage. So this is pretty good. Oh. So I like that one down there. Mr. Newsbaum's World. Newsbaum. What else was I going to show you on that one? Yes. Yeah, it's a good one. Oh, this one's really good. Down here at the bottom, they have this one thing called Engage New York. Okay. New York puts out all of their test questions. So here's a sample passage from 3rd grade. Here's the passage here, and then it has some questions. Then it has a rubric with it. Okay? They put out everything. So there's a bunch of stuff here, ELA, math, mainly. And then they have past years. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. State test questions. And then social studies and science. And then they want grade levels. They have a few, especially with science, it's good to do some of these simulations. They have a couple here. I'm going to show you a different website here in a minute that'll have some good ones. But mainly the simulations. And then the same thing for social studies. It has some simulations with it. Did you ever do the Jamestown Online Adventure? I don't know if it might have been too young for you. But there's some social studies stuff here that just gets them used to using the computer. Okay. Anything else that you would like to say? And I'm asking Lori because this is what she helps teach at the middle school, and she uses this site, don't you? Info, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The other site, and again, Barb will share these links with you. It's on Ohio's new state tests. Let me look at my notes here. Okay. So items and tools. This one I thought was really neat because what it did was it broke down the different items. So like you might have a single multiple choice question, or you might have a multiple choice question where you have to mark different boxes. Simulation cross out. I have to cross out things. These are all things that might be on the test. Text editor / essay. And that one right there looked like a social studies question. Text box short answer. Another social studies one. You have to select an item. I've seen these on the practice test too. And then the connecting lines one, and this is the one that I remember the practice test they did last year as well. This is the one, exact same one where I showed you where they had to add a point and then connect them. These are the different types of items that they're going to be responsible for. The tools, they have a navigation tool, they have notes, they have a line reader that'll help them move along. They can click on a line and it'll help them stay focused on that line. Test tools for physical science. And then here's the keys for the adding a point and everything. I thought that was kind of nice. That's in this, yeah, the very first one, items and tools. Okay. Question types. Breaks it down, elementary test, middle school test, and high school test. They'll see each one of these. So elementary, they'll see single choice, text editor, and drag and drop for science and social studies. And of course, math. Tests and answer keys. This gives you a link to the online portal that I showed you earlier. This is the practice site where students can sign in from any computer. The teacher resources gives you different sites. The one thing that I like over here, they give you a link to the Florida practice test. Their AIR site uses the same tools for math and language arts, but it says it has more practice questions than the Ohio one does. It's the same standards though, because it's Common Core. So you can click on that and go to the Florida AIR site, and I'll even have more. So like ours has like 3 or 4 questions, theirs might have more. So it might be useful to go look at the Florida one as well. It might have 8 or 10, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Under here they have some different resources. They have testing terminology, blueprints, which we just talked about, testing portals, there's the link to it. Don't use that one. Specs, and there's paper test examples, which might be useful to look at just so you can get an idea of the type of questions that they ask.
On the one with the practice, you can just sign in as a guest too.
Yes.
No.
No.
Nothing like West Virginia rights.
Nothing. There's some practice skills if you want to go through them. Video tutorials. They had one for, here's some Chromebook tips. I don't know if that might be useful to look at those. High school tutorials. That's about it. The one site that I do want to show you real quick, I don't know if there's any science teachers in here, but this Science Online through Info Ohio has some really, really, really good interactive experiments that kids can go through. And I'm not going to do it right now, but it tells you what to do and how to go through everything, and you're supposed to measure the cup, and then you have to record your answers here. Okay, so any questions? There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of unknowns too. But there's a lot of resources out there too. Anything else you want to share, Lori, that I may not have hit? Anything that you found out, whether it's technology related or what do you, is there something that you feel the kids are weakest in, or they surprised you? Mm-hmm. Right. Anything else? Yeah. Right. Yes. Hmm. Correct. Yeah. Well. All right. Anything else?